Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and hope you are staying safe and your family is well during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. For those of you who are watching us for the first time, let me just quickly introduce Provident. Provident is Singapore's first and probably still the sole fee-only comprehensive wealth management firm, and we specialize in retirement planning as well as helping our clients live their purpose and their life goals by using their wealth as an enabler. What differentiates us from the rest is that as a fee-only firm, we do not take commissions for giving advice. It is our way of being on the side of our clients, staying conflict-free. We were established almost 20 years ago in 2001 and have been managing our clients' wealth through different market cycles, crises and crashes, including the 2008 global financial crisis. From time to time, we produce reflective articles and videos like this to share our thoughts on wealth management and personal finance. So today, I'm very happy to be joined by two of my colleagues. First will be Max, our head of expat advisory, and also chief editor of maxkeeling.com. And next would be Keith, our senior solution specialist, as well as chief editor of a very well-known blog. I think some of us, we read that blog, and that is Investment Moves. So welcome to both Max and Keith.
Hello.
Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone.
So to both of you, I'm just going to start by asking both of you to tell us a little bit about yourself, because some of our viewers out there, they might just want to get to know you a little bit better. Yeah, especially for your followers, they read your blogs, but they might never get a chance to see you face to face, especially for Keith. Keith doesn't do a lot of videos. Right. So I'm going to first ask Max, our head of expat advisory.
Yep.
Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. What did you do before starting this career in wealth management? And maybe tell us also what made you do what you do now.
Okay. So I'm Max Keeling. I'm originally from the UK. So I've been a chartered accountant for 20 years. So prior to joining Providend, which I did in 2018, I spent about 16 years in various different finance type roles. So I worked at KPMG, General Electric, and then I did 10 years at Barclays Bank. I left Barclays in 2016 and was very frustrated and angry at how poor the financial advice space was for expats. And I felt at the time that I could help people avoid having to engage with financial advisors completely. So I spent 2 years then coaching expats on their personal finances across Asia and the Middle East. Purely in an educational role, all through one-on-one video calls and helping people make informed decisions themselves. And then I found about half my clients still wanted to use a third party to kind of help project manage them around ongoing financial advice and investments. So after 2 years, I reluctantly decided to become a regulated financial advisor based in Singapore, so I could fulfill that role for the clients that I'd built up.
So actually, Max, were you a victim to wealth management yourself?
I was actually, yeah. So
Really?
that was one of the catalysts as well. When I was working at Barclays, I got approached by one of the many expat financial advisory firms. I'm an accountant. I'm meant to be educated. I'm in a finance function. I'm working at a bank, and I signed up. And soon after, I came across a blog called andrewhallam.com. So he was an expat teacher in Singapore at the American school, and he's written various different books. And I read his book, and I was like, oh, what have I done? Realized it was a problem. It was like a 20-year insurance product, and luckily I got out after 18 months because the insurance wrapper that they used decided to exit Asia.
Oh, okay.
And they paid all their money back.
I think I know which insurance company was that.
It was, I think it was like Standard Life or something like that.
Okay.
And that was probably about 2015. So when 2016 came along, I was quite evangelical about it. Like I was trying to help a lot of people. People were asking me questions. And that was the genesis of getting into this kind of coaching space of trying to show people that they can do it themselves.
Thanks, Max. Thanks for sharing. Keith, how about yourself?
I think I'm probably almost the same age as Max, but I took a very different route from him. So I spent like about since graduating from NUS about 15 years of my career helping other companies manage their IT systems. So and I think along the way, when I started my investing journey, when I got out from university, I decided to start writing a blog back then, because all these blogging technologies was still in their infancy. So I started writing, and originally it started off more like chronicling my investing, what I learned from investing. But I think along the way, I realized that I got better, and then a lot of people that was actually starting at the the previous phase where I was, they wanted to learn about it. So I began to share more of all the different things that I learned from wealth building, and then that is still today. So that is also one of the reasons how I got into Provident in the first place, because somewhere along the journey, investment modes and Provident cross paths with each other. So Chris and I became friends. We turned a business relationship to a friendship, and then probably about 1 or 2 years ago, right? Chris asked whether I would like to join Provident or not. He actually propositioned a certain like research. I can do what I like, but that as my main job. So I think about it. I think that's pretty attractive, but it's also at the same time, right? I thought of taking a break from work as well. So everything ends up pretty nice, and it has been quite a good experience since then. Yeah.
Thanks, Keith, for sharing. For those of you who do not know, Keith wrote like a 15,000 words thesis on dimensional. Yeah, and one of the reasons why I asked Keith to join us was because all this while when I was reading his blog, I realized that actually Keith actually knows a lot more than financial advisors. Since he has so much passion, I thought it'd be great if I can bring him, ask him to join us, do all the research that he wants to do. I did tell him that, we might not use everything that he produced, but for those that it's useful for our clients, we will use it. And I think I must say that we so far had a great relationship since Keith joined us, and he has been the guy that on every morning he will shoot us with plenty of things that he read about. So that's Keith. So Max, how about yourself? I mean, Keith talks about why he joined Provident. Maybe you can share a little bit with us. Why is, and in Singapore we said Ang Mo or a Caucasian. Why did you join a firm that is predominantly Chinese or Asians? Why not join someone else whom is quote unquote like you?
Yeah. It was easy for me really, because I had been learning a lot about what a good investment solution looks like. I'd started to interview other advisors around Asia, because like I said, half the people I worked with wanted to use an advisor, and at the time I didn't want to do it. So I was trying to find out who are the best. And so then I was interviewing advisors in Hong Kong, Singapore, the UK, and I actually realized I'd probably enjoy it more than all the advisors that I met as well. So a bit like Keith, I was a bit geeky about stuff. And so when I decided, right, I think I want to become an advisor, I had a very clear idea of what kind of firm I wanted to represent. And they had to be fee only. They had to share my passion for like real financial planning. They had to only use low-cost tracker funds like Vanguard or iShares. They had to have access to dimensional fund advisors, which most people have never heard of, but I'd come to find out that that was a hallmark of excellence for other things. And literally Provident was the only firm in Singapore that ticked all those boxes. So I think we started to chat at the back end of 2017 about what my mission was and what I'd been doing, and you were talking about what you'd been doing with the Singapore market, and then I ended up joining like April 2018. But literally, like, there's hardly any firms, which I'm sure we'll get into, but there's hardly, you know, I could have approached some other expat firms. I'm sure they would have been happy to have me, but after preaching the gospel for 2 or 3, 4 years of low-cost tracker funds and fee only and all of that, there's actually not many places you can go if you really want to go down that journey.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Max. I remember, if I'm not wrong, I think when we first met, it was at a hotel.
Yeah.
And this guy has got so much passion, you know, and I mean, he's like researching a lot already into investing, you know, and wealth management, you know, and all that. And for those of you who have not read his blog, it's maxkeeling.com. I mean, like Keith, he's producing videos, writing articles non-stop. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're very glad to have Max serve the expat market. And I'm going to ask Max later on to share a little bit more, but I just want to say that, you know, to me, Max reminds me of those advisors who are really passionate about doing the right thing. And also the way he approached financial planning is very different. Most advisors will approach financial planning or retirement planning or wealth management as in you work very hard and then, you know, you retire later. But I'll tell you that Max is not like that. Yeah, he believes in living life now, you know, not pushing everything to the end, which is a very interesting way of looking at planning for yourself. And I'm going to ask Max later on to share more about that. But for now, I want to ask Max. Max, you know, you have been working in the expat space for a while right now.
Yeah.
You know, so-called your people, you know, they are foreigners living in Singapore. What are some of the problems that you feel they have? And how do you see your part as, how do you see yourself as part of the solutions for them?
Yeah. So I guess what we tend to see is a lot of expats are accumulating cash and they're not sure what to do with it. So they're often in quite senior roles. They're in low tax environment. Many companies don't provide pension schemes like you might find in their home country. So obviously, if you're a PR, you've got CPF, which is adding kind of automated future provisions, but that's usually not adequate for their future retirement needs. So some expats can feel quite cash rich, which is obviously a good problem to have. And what I've seen is you've kind of got two options then. You either got to go down the DIY route and do it yourself and invest yourself, or you've got to use an advisor. And what I've seen is most people are not good DIY investors. So part of that is because they're time poor. So pre this COVID lockdown, you know, a lot of people have got international roles or Asia-based roles, so they're traveling a lot. They've got senior roles, like I said, so they haven't got much time. A lot of people are not that interested in investing, so they don't want to go and research funds and all that kind of stuff. And then even the ones that do like investing don't tend to think about doing the financial planning piece. They don't stand back and think about what are the life and financial goals they want to achieve in the next 10, 20, or even 50 years. So what I tend to find is expats end up with a mixed bag of investments with no coherent kind of plan around it. So then you say, okay, well, if you're not going to do it yourself because of all those issues, then go to a financial advisor. And there's 3 issues I've seen with financial advice in Singapore. Firstly is the commission structure. So as we see in Singapore, which is the same as Hong Kong and other parts of Asia, whilst you are legally can be called a financial advisor, you know, you've done all the exams and you're licensed, you're actually a financial salesperson. And product selling in Singapore is mainly commission based. So the salesperson earns an upfront commission for signing up new clients, and the product provider then recoups that commission back over a period of time from you, the end investor. So higher fees to you as the investor means lower long-term expected returns compared to a non-commission based structure. The second thing that I think there's an issue with in Singapore is we haven't got many financial planners. So because being an expat financial salesperson is so lucrative in Singapore, very few people become real financial planners. And what I mean by that is kind of real independent help to help you understand where you are now, where you want to get to, and then support that person over a period of time for them to kind of achieve their goals. So whether that could be going through redundancy, or it's things like what we're going through now, the volatility in 2020. And then the third thing that I've been really surprised at, but maybe not as surprised now after doing this for kind of 4 years or so, is the portfolios that people tend to end up in are pretty poor, whether it's from a private bank or another advisor. So firstly, it goes back to the commission thing, in that they tend to use funds that pay them the highest commission rather than what's best for the advisor. And secondly, they don't tend to be constructed that well. So they're not kind of evidence-based in terms of looking at what's the last 100 years told us in terms of how you should build a portfolio. And they don't really use academic evidence around what to do. So you end up with kind of expat families that are accumulating cash. They're not investing it themselves because they haven't got the time, or what they are putting it in, they're kind of dabbling, and there's no coherent plan. And then the only professionals, so to speak, that they can go to are really financial salespeople. They're not building financial plans. They're not independent in terms of the solutions they can deliver. They get paid upfront commission, so there's no incentive for them to stay with you over the next 5, 10, 15 years. And then on top of that, the portfolio they're putting you in isn't that good. So they're the issues that have kind of come up a lot over the last 4 years, and I just increasingly see, and I know it's similar in the non-expat space as well, but it's prevalent in the expat world.
So Max, where do you see the greatest value where a financial advisor can actually add value to a person?
Well, if you look at, say, the US or the UK or some firms in Australia, you can find some like amazing financial planning firms that are doing like amazing customer service. They're doing real financial planning. They're using amazing tools to help people. They've got evidence-based investment solutions. And like me and Chris have been to the US to go and visit some. I've gone to the UK and visited quite a lot of firms. And when you see it done properly, you see that an advisor can genuinely help people achieve more financial success than they would have done on their own, because that, like I say, most people are not looking at this all the time. And for me, that's the vision of what I want to be able to do at Provident. And I think that's what we're trying to do across everything, is how can we take the best of what has already been done in other countries? How can we look at what other financial planning firms are doing? And it's the financial planning piece that adds a lot of value for people, because they might work for a big corporate like I did, and you get asked what your career goals are every year, and you set objectives, and then you have a half-yearly catch-up with your boss about how you're getting on. And people never do that with their lives, or very few people. So I think being in that role of just getting people to think about it, document it, refine that over time helps a lot. I think using the right planning tools adds a lot of value. So again, we don't see firms in Asia really using planning tools, or if you do, it's the odd advisor. It's not consistent. Whereas we're trying to bring kind of best of class tools and bring them over to Singapore for the first time. Then it's the portfolio construction, like I talked about, is it's not the Max Keeling way of investing or the Provident way of investing. It's saying, like, Nobel Prize winning economists and academics solved this like 30, 40 years ago and told us how to build stuff. And then companies like Vanguard and Dimensional have created very low cost, amazingly diversified funds that you can use to build. And so actually the solutions are often quite simple but elegant in their solution. I think we can add a lot of value in terms of helping people do that. And if you can combine, that's really it. If you can combine it a bit like being a coach in terms of help people understand what they might be able to achieve in the medium to long term, and then say, hey, this is how you should go and construct it. It sounds simple, but it's actually quite hard because a lot of people don't do it that way.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Max. Well, I'm quite sure many of the financial practitioners and institutions out there, if they watch this video, they won't be very happy with what you are saying. I'm so glad you are on our side, and but well, I mean, we didn't make this video for them. We make this video for consumers, and I'm not sure how many of you actually experience what Max has said. You get a hot potch of financial products, and you really look at it, they're really expensive, and they're not integrated. They're all done piecemeal. You see someone, you get sold one product, you see another person, you get something else. Now, if you have similar experience, please share with us. Yeah, we would love to hear from you. I'm going to turn now to Keith. And like I said earlier, Keith, you have been blogging for a long time. You're one of the first few financial bloggers. I mean, before even people hear of financial blogging, I mean, you have already started this more than a decade, and you have a huge following of readers. How many readers do you? How many followers do you have, Keith? I'm not sure.
Okay, I didn't count.
You didn't count as well.
That's quite a lot. But you're making me sound like an old man like that.
Well, I mean, relatively speaking, I mean, compared to many of the blogs out there, I mean, you're a dinosaur, right? You have been doing this for a long, long time.
Yeah, that's a good term.
Yeah, and
in terms of blogging.
Yeah, but and honestly, if I look at your blog aesthetically, it's not as nice as the rest of the blogs out there. But if people are going for content, when they read the blog, they know that this guy actually knows his stuff, and you have readers from all walks of life, different wealth levels. And when it comes to investing, maybe you want to share with us, because Max and me, both of us believe that most people, they cannot DIY, but you are at the end of that space, that spectrum, because you are blogging, and a lot of your readers, perhaps they are trying to DIY. What do you think? What do you think? Are there some gaps with people who are investing in Singapore?
I think what I observe is that everyone wishes to get better in their wealth building. So a lot of my target audience is a little bit different from Max, in the sense that I get people from all walks of life who comes across my content. So this could be lawyers who wishes to learn about wealth building. This could be students who are like us, a little bit nerdy and geeky, who wishes to do all the right things. And then you have mainly all the working people who are like in the middle class, sandwiched by their parents and kids, and then they wishes to get to a better position. So due to the kind of content that I write on, usually because I write a lot on active stock investing, value investing, dividend investing, as well as something similar to what our clients use at Provident, which is a passive portfolio of low-cost funds. So I guess everyone wants to get better, but the problem is that they've been hearing a lot of different things from a lot of different sources. Like they'll be conscientious to read up on their own, whether it's from books or they went to some seminars. But at the end of the day, right, they are not sure like how difficult it is to do, how easy or difficult to do something, and whether if you continue to do this thing, whether it works or not. So what I realized along the way that some of the challenges people felt is that investing is quite special, because you'll probably only know the result at the end of the journey. But during this period, right, you have to go through it, and then usually you don't have people to ask, like say for example, the book says something like this, how to invest this way. Does it work in real life? Yeah, so this is what active investing is about. And one of the key things that I realized that people tends to not be able to gauge so well is the level of effort that is required for different kind of wealth building. So they usually their idea is that once they read up on something and they learn something for a period of time, they have the idea that okay, that is they probably know a lot already, but essentially what they don't realize that what they actually know is actually not a lot, and maybe not enough for them to build wealth sustainably. So I have the privilege because not just for myself, but my peers around me. I have friends who conduct courses in trading, value investing. A lot of my friends do active dividend investing and all. So I have a glimpse of like what are some of the challenges that you seldom hear out there, which is that people don't realize that you have to be quite conscientious in this. You have to invest in effort upfront to learn about what are the pros and cons and what is the daily things that you need to do, and then along the way there is recurring costs, like let's say for example trading, right? You need to screen for these companies, you need to screen for these trades, and then you have to execute these trades on a daily, weekly basis. So even for those advocates of, let's say, value investing, right? You have to understand your own company, and you have to understand your competitors and prospective companies. So there's a lot of work involved, and I guess where I feel is that people tend to couldn't judge it so well. It's only they're enthusiastic about it. They try for 1 or 2 years, and then they come back to me and then say that it doesn't seem like it's a set and forget strategy.
I find the same, Keith, that for a long time I did individual stock trading. You know, being an accountant, I love spreadsheets. I thought, right, I must be able to analyze companies, P&L and balance sheets. And, you know, I loved Warren Buffett and read everything that's ever been put out on him. But you realize it's such a lot of time and effort. And, you know, I come across people that have dabbled in individual stocks. And they like the idea of researching and saying, maybe they really like Apple products, so they want to buy Apple, or they like Tesla, which is fine. So one thing that I've come across with people is, let's say you had $1 million to invest, and that's your retirement pot. I tend to find, even if you wanted to invest in individual stocks, people do not put their $1 million into individual stocks. What they do is they play around and they maybe put 50 grand into stocks. And so they tell all their friends and family that, yeah, I'm an investor. I've bought Tesla and it doubled. And often people think all of their work colleagues must be, wow, that guy must be really sophisticated. You know, I worked in banking for kind of 12, 13 years. There's a lot of bravado. Everyone assumes everyone else knows what they're doing because they're like, oh, this guy brought Tesla and it went up. And what I'm finding is people have put a very small amount of their wealth. They haven't fully committed to saying, you know what, I don't want to do what Max is talking about. I'm going to buy individual stocks. They don't put the $1 million in. They stay in cash. And do you find that with what you've seen, people that are doing individual stock trading, they're actually not committing all of their financial resources?
What I observe is it depends on how assured the person is when it comes to their wealth building, because there are some that they have quite high conviction that they have the competency, right, to do this well. So they would dare, if they have $1 million, they would dare to put $1 million inside. Now, is that conviction and their competency well placed? That's debatable. Some of them are, some of them are not. So what you're gonna get if let's say you don't have the adequate competency is that you're gonna have you might suffer some catastrophic capital impairment, and then that will really affect how you view your investing, but also it will set back your wealth building and all that. But I've also seen the other side of things. They are learning about this. They're probably around about 40 and 50. They realize that they do not have enough time, and they chance upon all these terms that their friends talk about: dividend investing, value investing, and even passive index investing. So they know that they don't have time, and then they want to give it a try. But because they didn't delve very deep into it, right, they don't have that conviction to actually put in the money. So that would be something like what you said. They have $1 billion, but they'll probably put in 100,000 or $50,000. And the worst thing is maybe that 50,000, they don't get very good results from it. And then the other $950,000, they'll be sitting there not doing anything.
I think it comes back, when you said where can you add value to people? I think definitely what I've seen, and I've seen other advisors at Providend, and we've seen this with Singaporean clients, is if you haven't got a robust plan and you haven't got the confidence in it, you're not actually that confident in the investment strategy. And like you said, if you're not sure what's going to work, and you're not going to know until it's at the end, and either it did work or it didn't. So you see people, they don't really trust their advisors or their bank. So when the private bank comes along, they'll put a little bit with them, and then they'll have a little bit of dividend stocks, and then they'll come across your blog and read that, and then they'll meet someone else, because they probably don't fully trust the whole plan, and they do end up with a lot in cash still. And I think that's an interesting transformation that you really appreciate when you build trust with someone, and you can build an independent plan, independent of what they're going to invest in. You see the commitment rate that you're talking about a lot higher, that people say, actually, you know what? I know I need to put everything in. I'm now 50. I've got X number of years till I want to reach financial independence. The conviction is there because now they feel confident, rather than this kind of dropping things around different advisors.
Yeah, and I also feel that sometimes whether we read the blogs, we read all the books, we have all the knowledge. A lot of it is a lot of head knowledge, and even we write a plan. And at Provident, we say that people know that they need to start investing because they have a goal that needs to be funded by money. They may know that they have the ability to stay invested, but the problem with all these things, it sits on the head. And there is a great distance between the head and the heart, because the heart is very unwilling. And a lot of times our heart, whether they are willing or unwilling, it is due to our relationship with money, our past experiences, the way we are brought up, whether we come from a rich family, poor family, and all that. And I think when you use an advisor, it is not just about coming out with that plan, all this head knowledge of how to invest, whether to invest, diversified portfolio. I think for me as a financial advisor, I also strongly believe that the role of the advisor is to take care of the heart part, is to understand how your heart feels, because investing is a long journey, and that journey, it's not easy. I mean, like now, right now, even as we speak, right, we are in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic. That's why we are at home, and sometimes you hear all this background noise. And all that. The markets are crazy. Yeah, and when you're reading, you think you can do it, but then when the markets are going down, the heart can't take it. And the role of the advisor is really there to guide you, to hold you, to remind you. And the role of the advisor is also because they understand your background, they understand your relationship with money, and that's why they can guide you properly. Right, and the other thing that we do here at Provident, we're very proud that we do it, is that in our first meeting, we talk about aspirations, we talk about values of money, we talk about what money means to you, because we know that money is not the goal, money is an enabler, and we really want to know what are your values, what are your aspirations, because not just about having lots of money, but it's about how do you live life with money. Now I'm going to ask Max. I know this video is very long and I actually want to stop it, but I don't want to lose this chance to interview Max on that. But before I'm going to ask Max to talk about his lifestyle now, his belief in living life today and not just in the future, I want to throw a spanner to Keith, and I didn't really prepare him for this question.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember Keith kept telling me, because Keith had the chance to be out there looking at Provident as an outsider for many good years, and every advisory firm, they will say that, we do good quality work, we do planning, and every advisor say they write a plan, right? and Keith has that opportunity to sit outside there looking at Provident, but now he is not in the dark side, he's now on the bright side, right? And many times in our conversation, Keith kept on telling me, he said, you know, you have got to find a way to convince clients that you have value, right? Because this thing about value is so difficult to convince, especially in financial services, because it's not tangible, right? Everybody says they do asset allocation, and all that, right? So Keith has been telling me, right, you got to find a way to show value. Maybe Keith, you want to explain why you kept on telling me that, hey, Provident has got to find a way, to show value.
Okay, I think that's a bit difficult answering this question when my boss is sitting in front of me and all. But I think why I stress that so much was that it's also because I'm quite new to Provident. When I come in, right, I still have not come to grips like where how does the clients feel about the financial planning process and whether they get enough value or not. So I have to slowly observe this along the way. Like I need to talk to Max, and I need to talk to some of the more experienced advisors, but also a newest advisor. Here there are clients' experience, right? And you realize that okay, there is different areas that the advisor can add value to the client. The nature of our business is such that it is difficult for the clients to see the value until before they actually pay money for it. Because one thing that I pick up from what Max talked about is I think a lot of people would really appreciate a financial confidant to go along with them this journey. They don't have the time for these kind of things. But what they want is that anytime, let's say if you have this kind of situation, they need someone that they trust but competent as well to go along this journey with them. What clients I feel the greatest value, what they're actually looking for is for someone to walk this journey with them, competent and have that same integrity for them to always bounce this idea off. At the start, they're probably not sure whether this advisor is trustworthy or competent enough. So a lot of times they will probably need to wait until 3 to 4 years later, maybe after a few of these incidents, this market challenges incident, in order for them to really know that okay, this is what I'm paying the money for. This is what the value that I'm trying to get. So the unfortunate thing about this business is that we won't know about it until the end. So that's why initially I find that I'm always keeping a lookout to see where Provident can actually add more value to the client.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, I think it's very hard because when Keith asked me, I kept telling him it's very difficult. I mean, I would say there are values in 3 ways, or 3 levels, right? One is, it's the thoroughness of the work. And how do you market thoroughness of work unless you experience it, right? Because everybody says they do a plan, but you need to see the plan and you realize that, whoa, it's really thorough, right? Secondly is knowledge. Everybody says that, I have got knowledge, right? But how do you actually display knowledge until the client actually start talking to you, right? And the third value is about, as I mentioned earlier, is that understanding of money not being a goal, money being an enabler. Is that understanding that investing is not just about knowledge, but it's about a person's relationship with money. And that's why we spend like 1.5 hours, 2 hours in our first meeting discovering that from the client. How do you show that value in marketing, right? It's very, very hard unless you experience it. But thanks, Keith, for sharing. I'm going to.
Well, I was going to say on top of that, yeah. I think I think you can show value quite quickly, actually, because I think, Keith, you're coming from a background of like a DIY investor, and you've researched all this, and you can manage it yourself, and you're looking at it saying, well, you're kind of thinking, if I go and work with Max, what's he going to give me on top of what I already know? And I think one thing that I've come to appreciate is, let's say you've only got let's say all your savings in the world is $50,000. It's a lot of money to you, but actually in terms of what you need to go and do with it is usually fairly straightforward. Like you just need to start on the path of investing, and that's where things like the robo-advisors can be quite good to get you going. It's about putting the financial discipline in place in terms of saving and all that kind of stuff. Where it starts to get a bit more murky is, let's say you're in that 1 to 20 million space, where now you're getting private banks are beginning to be interested in you. You're still pretty small for them. You're not going to get the best relationship manager, and there are some amazing private bankers out there. And if you've got 100 million, which I know sounds a crazy amount of money, but if you're a business owner, your family business, you have got a team of people you can access. And at the 1 to 20 million, you feel like you've got enough money that surely I need something more sophisticated than the normal person with 50 grand. So you get all these different people coming at you, and where you can really add value is trying to cut through that, because you're really not sure who to trust, and the numbers are big. You know, if you've got 50 grand, and again, I know it's, if you've got 50 grand, that's all your money and you think that's a lot of money, but the error doesn't feel as big. You know, if you put $1,000 into DBS shares, then you feel like you're doing something. But if you've got $5 million in cash and you put $1,000 into DBS, it's not going to touch the sides. And so I think people start to get this burden of what do they do with it, and they get this paralysis. So in my experience, we're able to add value pretty quickly, because once someone trusts you, and I think the harder thing is how do you know who to trust? But we know we've got a very robust plan and process and instruments, and once people trust you, you actually, after the first or second meeting, people tell you that you're giving them a lot of value, because you're telling them things that other advisors won't tell them. You know, you tell them about what is the compensation structure really, what's really going on here, or you're sometimes you're honestly saying to them what you've invested in isn't that good. And that's not because I'm trying to sell the Max Keeling process. It's like we can analyze what you're invested in and tell you and be quite honest. So it can actually, the trust process you can add value very quickly if we're a good fit for each other.
Right. Thanks, Max and Keith. Now, time is really catching up on us, and you know, you won't believe it, we've been speaking for 1 hour, but I really don't want to leave this without Max sharing your own experience. I know you have it on your blog, but very quickly, Max, tell us, you know, why do you live life like the way you are living now? You know, as in, and you go for more holidays in a year than maybe I go in my lifetime. You know, and your way of living life is also apparent in the way you advise your clients, and so the way at Provident we believe when we plan for our clients. So maybe very quickly, tell us your thoughts on this.
So I think it was Tim Ferriss that coined the phrase lifestyle design. So the idea is actually sit back and think about what's the kind of lifestyle you want and how much you think it's going to cost, and then think about ways you can bring that into your current. So I have always wanted to own a Ferrari all my life, since I was a little kid. So you might go, okay, I want to own a Ferrari. How much is a Ferrari? Right, in Singapore, let's say it's $300,000. Right, I've got to save it for 20 years. And then,
$300,000.
Okay, let's say $500,000. And when I'm 65, I can buy that Ferrari and I can drive it round at 10 kilometers an hour on the roads. Lifestyle design would say, why don't you just go to a racetrack and hire a Ferrari for like $500 and do 10 laps, and you haven't got all of the cost of ownership and all that kind of stuff. So that's the idea, is think about what are some of the things you'd love to do, and then think, well, actually, how could I do that today? So I think what Chris is alluding to is where me and my wife wanted to get to is not necessarily living in one location and have multiple locations. And so rather than saying, I want to have a holiday home when I'm 65 and 70 and I'm going to retire and I'm going to spend some time in Spain, we've actually said, We really like a certain part of Spain, which is Ibiza. So we've got a small place there. We want to be able to, rather than go on holiday, we say, well, why don't we go and base ourselves in Spain for a month or 2 months, and we can still work from there. And we've kind of proven that remote working works. A lot of people are going through remote working now, and it's kind of proven that you can actually use electronic tools. So the idea is, can you have 2 or 3 places where you spend time in and not necessarily just have a 1 or 2 week vacation? And that's what I bring into the planning as well, is to say to people, maybe it's not your Ibiza, maybe it's Bintan is your thing, or whatever. But it's actually getting people to think more creatively about, like, ignore how much you earn and what the possibilities are. What would you love to do? And I'm not saying I can guarantee I'm going to get you that. I can't magic money out of thin air, but we can cost it up, and then we can say, no, actually, you can't quite achieve that, but you could achieve 2 or 3 of those, and we can show different options. And then if your dream is to, say, own a yacht, well, actually, why don't you go and join the yacht club, and we'll put that cost into your financial plan and actually use somebody else's boat. Doesn't have to be, you don't need to own the boat.
Just rent the boat.
Yeah, and I think everyone's got some things that they want to do. It's not necessarily about having the money. It's about, can you do the lifestyle design? And then the financial bit, it actually is last. I know we've talked about investments a lot. The investments is the easiest bit out of all of it. The harder bit is, what do you want the money for, and why? And keep asking, well, why do you want a Ferrari? Why is that important to you? So I've kind of gone through that journey myself, and that's definitely influenced what I read, what I look at, and also how I challenge clients.
Thanks, Max. I think Max also shared his personal story on his blog, and if you want to hear more, you can go to Max's blog, maxkeeling.com. And I think Max shared that what really triggered him to also want to live this kind of lifestyle is because the father worked so hard, and just when he was about to retire, enjoy his lifestyle, very unfortunately, he passed away prematurely. Yeah. And that's precisely what we believe here at Provident. So, I mean, we don't have a contract with so-called God, I mean, whichever God you believe in, right? Because recently I did an interview with Money Mai, and the old model is this thing called the 3-stage model, whereby you study very hard, you work very hard, and then you hope that you can retire. Yeah. But unfortunately, sometimes that retirement part doesn't happen for you because you expire too early. Yeah. Right? Instead, what we believe in is what Max has just described. It's like a multi-stage, right? I mean, at every stage of your life, you get to enjoy what you are doing. You can take mini sabbatical, you can take holiday and still work. I mean, you don't have to reserve everything that you want to do right to the end, because the end might never happen for you. Yeah, so now I wish we had time to talk more, but unfortunately, like I said,
we should do a whole session on that as well, because I think that's kind of where financial advice is going. Is that's right. It's not about what products have you got to sell me, and then that's it. And you say, oh well, do you do buy-to-let properties? And you go, well, no, I'm a bank, I don't do it. It's got to be, well, what is it you want to do? And like you're saying, some people might have had an amazing career for 15 years, and now they want to take a break. But they don't want to quit work. They might want to do part-time work, and then they want to start a business on the side, and then they want to go back to full-time employment. And some people want to work till they're 80 doing different things. Some people want 3 or 4 jobs, and it's not that traditional 3-stage like you said. And I know we haven't got time to go through it now, but that's what I passionately believe in, is the advisor's there to help you navigate through what your options are. The investment bit, like, in a way, we don't care whether we have all of your assets to manage or not. It's about what's right for you and what stage you're at, and how can you be a bit more creative about how do you want to live life? It can't be about, I've got a product to sell and I only represent one financial firm and that's it.
This kind of lifestyle is a bit unconventional compared to the traditional model, and also I think a lot of people will be wondering, like, how does the wealth actually supports this kind of lifestyle? So that will be probably a topic for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you guys because otherwise, people will fall asleep watching such a long video. Yeah, once again, a big thank you to Max, our head of expat advisory at Provident, and also runs a blog called maxkeeling.com, as well as Keith, our senior solutions specialist. He also runs a blog, investmentmodes.com. So if you have been watching for the last 1 hour, thank you so much for staying with us.
You're still here.
I just want to end by saying that at Provident, we specialize in serving the affluent and the high net worth individuals to help you reach your life goals with finance. And if you feel that we are the right partner for you to make that happen, we will be most happy to speak with you. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.